All right, thanks for coming. We're going to kick it off here. First and foremost, who's here for beer? Yeah. Okay, never mind tips and tricks. We'll just roll out the card. How's that? We're going to kick off here pretty soon. This is my friend Dean Kerste. Everyone say hello, Dean.
Hello.
Dean's a craft beer guy like myself. We're going to introduce ourselves in a little bit here. This is awesome. You guys.
Good turnout.
Wow, great. I hope you guys like tips and tricks. Right? Everyone like tips and tricks? So Dean and I will fumble our way through tips and tricks like any other person that does a tips and tricks presentation, and we'll get going. Good? All right. So that's me. I like to do some 3D printing. I got a Mark Forge printer. Anybody got a Mark Forge printer and know what they are? Yeah, those are awesome printers, right? I own my own business, Digital Detail and Design. That's up there in the center. Last year I brought some bottle openers and gave them away. That's some onyx material with a metal insert. And yeah, so that's the kind of stuff I do. And fun stuff. I've been self-employed for about 10 years, been in the industry for about 30. Been using SOLIDWORKS since 2003. So how many long-time SOLIDWORKS users we got here? 15 years? 15 years? 10? Less than 5. Newbies, yes!
Cool.
So that's me having a beer. Anybody know what this is right here? Beer me, right? So I got a few beer me tags after the presentation. I'll give a few out. I do the PanMass ride, PMC ride for Eric Leafquist Fund. Last year I raised $8,300. Nice. This year I want to raise 10 grand. So if you get the opportunity after World or even during World, go to pmc.org. Look up Ed Gebo, you will find me. I will take a $1 donation or a $1,000 donation. Cool? So support my ride. It all goes to a good purpose. Eric Leafquist died of leukemia at the age of 13. Her dad is Eric Leafquist. Eric Leafquist is an employee of SOLIDWORKS. So I come from the land of Treehouse Brewing, and Trillium Brewing Company. Both of those are Massachusetts, probably the biggest Massachusetts breweries we have up in New England.
Thank you, Ed. My name is Dean Kerste. I'm a professor at Monroe County Community College from Michigan, so I can hold my hand up, and I'm in the very southeast corner of the state, about 40 minutes south of Detroit, about 30 minutes north of Toledo. I've been a college professor for 25 years. Prior to that, worked out in industry for 10 years. And I was fortunate enough, when I entered the field, we didn't have CAD. My first 2 years out in industries on the drafting board with 40 other people. Really, really neat experience I still cherish today. Just really good times. 2013, I was getting the itch to go back out in industry. Didn't want to leave education. I love teaching. So I started up Centerpoint CAD Solutions, and I do consulting and design business on the side, design work on the side. And I also run the Southeast Michigan and Northwest Ohio SOLIDWORKS User Group. Now, in my classroom, I offer to my students both an introduction to SOLIDWORKS course and an advanced SOLIDWORKS course. In the intro course, I require the students to take the CSWA certification exam. And most of you know these certifications are not easy, and they have a lot of weight in the town I'm from. The employers know these certifications, and now they're calling me up. They say, I need 2 CSWAs and 1 CSWP. So because these certifications are difficult, I want to award my students and show them that once they pass the certification, to do something special. So I'm going to have to sit down here and put my glasses on, otherwise I can't see my monitor. But if you look at the picture in the top right of this PowerPoint, any student who is CSWA certified, I place their name in a poster. And in fact, I have 3 of these posters around my classroom. Let's go over to this left picture here. Here's 1, 2, and 3. And then in my advanced course, I require the students to take the CSWP. And the students who successfully pass the CSWP, I print their certificate out, put it in a frame, and you can see I place those certificates along the ceiling. And I currently have 2 walls filled up, working on my 3rd wall. And you always have those overachievers that want the coveted CSWE. While we don't offer any preparation classes for the CSWE, myself and Rod Harper from Fisher Unitech, we take time to help prep the students. So the students who get CSWE certified, we take their certificate, print it out to a ceiling tile size, glue it to the ceiling tile, and I put it up in my ceiling. And I currently have 5 CSWEs in my classroom, and I hope before retirement I can get to around 15. So really cool.
You're not cute over here, so I'm slow and not active over here. One.
Okay.
So Dean and I share something in common. We're both user group leaders. I'm the user group leader for New Hampshire, if you didn't hear me earlier. Dean is the user group leader for?
Southeast Michigan and Northwest Ohio.
So we both have special meetings once a year. Actually, you have a special meeting every meeting, right?
Yes.
At the school?
Twice a year.
Twice a year. So twice a year. Dean hosts over 200 attendees?
125 to 200.
125 to 200. My last meeting was at DECA in New Hampshire, in Manchester. Had about 150 people there. Those are fun meetings. They're also a lot of work, but we love doing that kind of thing. That's our thing. That's our jam. User group meetings are. Who attends our user group meeting here? Some more hands should be up. User group meetings are a vast wealth of information, networking possibilities beyond belief. Believe it or not, I've got probably some of my most work just word of mouth through other people that knew I was self-employed doing my own thing.
And it is a fun evening. I have an unfair advantage. I require my students attend this. I cancel classes for this. So about half of my attendees are students, and the other half are people from industry. But what's really cool, our college has been open since 1966, and we have employers in my town. The first time they visited the college was because of the user group, and it's been open more than 50 years. So that's pretty impressive.
Right. And for our user group leaders out there, you can get some special meetings, some special people at your meetings if you coordinate it right. Find your local reseller, local user group rep. Let them help you figure out how to get those special people from corporate or other people in the industry to your meetings. All right, diving in. This is where I take my glasses off because now I can't see you, but I can see this.
I need my glasses.
The wonderful part of aging. Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you a slick way to create a sheet metal part. Now, most of our tips and tricks, I'm sure a lot of you probably know some of them. Some of you may not. And we hope you get at least one or two out of them. When you walk out of here with that, we'll be happy. Pull that up. There we go. So I'm going to roll this back. They're all pre-canned demos, but we're going to live in SOLIDWORKS. So I'm starting with an extruded block. Pretty simple. Up in the sheet metal tool, you have convert to sheet metal, which is right there because I already have it in a sheet metal mode. So convert to sheet metal brings you to this. So you're going to grab a bend parameter, which is usually just the face on the bottom or the side. That all depends on you. Doesn't matter where you start it from. Right there. So I'm grabbing that bottom face. The bend edges, all you do is click collect bend edges, and it'll find all your bend edges for you because I've already had the process, already have the bend edges in there. But it's basically the other four corners of the opposite side of the face. So I pick that corner there, that edge there, and that edge back there. The rip edges, it'll automatically populate that. Pretty straightforward. Hit the green check mark, and you have a convert solid. Now you can do a flat pattern with that as well. Flatten. And there's your flat pattern. Now it's all from a solid. One of the other things you could do too is if I do a split line on the top and I click that bottom edge, it'll actually create a window in that sheet metal. So you can get really creative with convert to sheet metal if you really want to get there. But for those of you that may not want to dive deep into the sheet metal tool, start off with an extruded block. Pick a face, convert edges, click a couple edges, and you're done. It's really simple. Don't try to make your work harder, work smarter. Pretty simple stuff. You?
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
My first one here is really not a tip or trick. This is one of the new enhancements for 2019. And from teaching for 25 years and teaching the SOLIDWORKS software for more than 20 years, one thing I see that's very common, whether it be a student or a person that has many years of experience out in industry, once you learn and you feel confident about the software, once you learn how to use the software, when you're creating parts, assemblies, and drawing files, typically for many years you don't vary from that path. You create your parts the same way over and over and over. And the same with assemblies and drawings. And in fact, I tell my students, they always want extra credit work. I tell them the best thing you can do is get up and help other students. Just see how other people approach models. That is one of the great ways to better learn the software. Well, we have new releases every year. Come out new features, new enhancements, and I think a lot of times we see them, but we never use them, we overlook them, especially the smaller ones. And here's one of the smaller enhancements here, but it's very useful. How many times do you have a fully defined sketch, then you get in there and start trimming, and now it's underdefined? Very common problem in a classroom setting, and I even see that's kind of an issue out in industry too. Because all of my entire program is mechanical design, and we do mechanical parts, I require all of my student models to be fully defined. So one thing I do is I expand the tree, and I make sure every sketch is fully defined. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And before 2019, let me go ahead and edit the sketch. I'm going to go to my trim tools. I'm going to use the power trim. And you can see before I start to do the power trim, it's fully defined in the bottom right-hand corner. However, once I use that power trim and I begin to trim, does it take too long before it's underdefined? And a lot of times we're just so busy, we overlook that. So in 2019, let me undo that. Under the trim entities, we have two new options. How many people have seen these two options? See, just a few people. So this is really cool. The first one is, and these are both check boxes, square check boxes, where they're not round radio buttons where you have to make a choice. So you can have one check, both unchecked. But the first one is keep trimmed entities as construction geometry. So I'm going to put a check mark here. Excuse me. I'm going to go to power trim and check this out when I take my spline, switches it over to construction geometry, and it keeps my sketch fully defined. Really slick. It is a huge improvement for us in education, because students are learning this software, they get their sketches fully defined, they trim, they turn their assignment in and mark them down because it's not fully defined, and they're frustrated. They don't know why. They say it was fully defined, what happened? The second option is ignore trimming of construction geometry. So in this one, as you're taking your spline through construction geometry, it will not trim it away. It will keep it. So two smaller enhancements, but really cool. I think it's going to make a difference on the sketches we do out there. So if you haven't seen that yet, it's part of 2019, just one of those smaller enhancements, but I think it's pretty neat.
And at any time, throw your hand up, throw out a question. This is interactive. Yes, Mr. Enter.
I believe so. Yes. I would have to check on that. I believe so, yes.
So in this example, I used this yellow configurated part, and I'm going to show you the bounding box. And there's some value to the bounding box. You can use this for any part feature, doesn't matter what size or shape it is. The bounding box will give you parameters X, Y, and Z. That actually might be helpful downstream in a manufacturing environment. Maybe on a drawing you want to display the bounding elements for size purposes for a manufacturer. Pretty simple. Insert, reference geometry, bounding box. It's grayed out here because I already have it in my model. You could also find it up in the filter tool. Who knows about the filter tool in the top right? All you guys' hands should be up. You should be using this all the time. I could probably wipe out all my icons and just use the filter tool in the top right. Do you agree with that, Craig? The filter tool is amazing. So let's see if it comes up here. So bounding. Oops, if I click on the right tool. Commands, there we go. So you see it right there, bounding box. Now the beautiful part about using the filtering tool, I can actually hold my left mouse button down, drag that to the strip at the top and pin it there. So this way here, if I'm looking for something specific, you go up customize, you go to the third tab over, you look for all the icons. Don't do that anymore. Use the filter tool. It's the best tool in the world. Or hit the eyeball, shows you where it is. So click that eyeball, watch. Dink, dink, boom, right there. See it right there? And it even gives you a little red arrow. So who's going to use a filter tool when you go back to work? Who's going to use the filter tool when you get back up? There we go. There you go. This is interactive. Roll up your sleeves. Dean roll up his, but he's got tattoos down to his wrists. I've only got it down to my elbows. So
Not yet. Getting there.
and there you go.
There you go.
So here it is up here. Bounding box. I'm going to edit this feature. Best fit, custom plane, so you can decide where that bounding box should start. I'm going to go best fit. That seems to work the best for me. It'll actually give you that geometry automatically. Now, here's the beautiful part. Go up to the Properties tool, Configuration Specific. There's all the values of that property, of the bounding box. I can use that on a drawing. I can call out those properties in a drawing or in an assembly. And that actually might be good for somebody starting, if it's a piece of sheet metal, or maybe a piece of plastic, whatever the case may be. Pretty simple, straightforward. You guys like that one? Give us some feedback. Well, we're here. We're up here listening. We're up here listening. Hit the now or close this. Yep. Yep. Bounding. Ah. Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. See, this is what I love about these tips and tricks. I just learned a tip and trick.
That's a pretty cool one.
That is cool. I didn't know you could do that with the S key. Thank you, Steve. All right. Kick you over. Yeah?
So what, if you have a uniquely shaped part, will it best adjust the bounding box to get the minimum?
Yeah, mass size. It'll go right to the edges, X, Y, and Z. Yeah, so that's perfect. That's exactly what that's for. I learned this tool from a friend of mine who does a lot of aerospace parts. The manufacturer wants to know what that size envelope is going to end up being. So this way here, they know how much material they're going to use. So. Say that again, Mike? Exactly, yep. Yep, from a certain plane or a certain surface. Say that again? Yeah, anything that's geometry in this in the SOLIDWORKS desktop, it'll give you a bounding box. 2016, I think, is when it came out. Anybody know? Any VARs in here that would know that? I see John Hall there in the back. John, do you know? Take a guess. Okay,
Yeah, I think
works for me.
16 is correct.
Is this something that can just be turned on your standard templates, so it's always there?
Part template you're talking, or? Yeah, I would imagine so. No, because it's a feature. It's a feature, so I don't think you can embed that in a part. It's in the very top. Yeah, it's in the very top. Say that again. Does it? All right. Properties of the feature? When it was inserted in the part, yeah. Not when it was created, yeah. Say that again. Oh, so it's in 19 for assemblies too. Thank you, Michael. In case you didn't hear the question, you can use it in assemblies as of 2019, which is what we're using here. So, who's on 2019? 18? All right. Anybody older than 18? Reasons? Software, PDM system? What's that? PDM, other software, partner software, yeah.
So this next one here, once it
Take a little delay.
yeah, a second or so, allows you to quickly create an edge sketch with minimal input. So let me show you how that works. Now I'm going to zoom up on this corner down here. Normally when you want to place a new sketch plane, let's say at the very end of this piece of geometry, at the very end of this entity, and you want it to go through this endpoint here, we would go to Features, Reference Geometry, and we would select Plane, and then go through the necessary steps to add that. There's a cool little shortcut. All you need to do is you're going to click on this entity near the point where we want the plane to be normal to that entity. So I'm going to click right here, just one left mouse click. I'm going to go up and click on Sketch, and it creates a plane normal to that line right at that point. So again, really slick. You don't have to go through all of the necessary mouse clicks to insert a new sketch plane normal to an existing line. I'll do it one more time. I click on this line here. I click on Sketch, and it creates a new sketch plane at that point, normal to that line segment. Yes. Plane 1 and plane 2. Any questions?
Preloading that reference geometry.
Yes, just saves you a couple mouse clicks. So really handy. And this works on any edge type from linear to prismatic to organic shapes and even lofted shapes. So really cool. Saves a lot of time, saves a few. Yes, just a single click and then you click on the sketch icon and it creates a plane.
Half the time you do that and you create a plane, you don't know how that plane got there. You just did what Dean showed you.
Yes, exactly.
Seriously. How did that plane get? Well, I didn't click nothing. Well, you did. You just don't know you did it.
Yes, so exactly. The first one I selected near that end point. So if I selected more at this end, then it would place the plane over here at this end point. So it does make a difference where you select along that segment.
This one's pretty straightforward and easy. Sweep and merge faces. Let me open up the file. So we've all created a sweep, correct? But you get those segmented lines off from all the curves or whatever the case may be. You ever want to just turn it into a smooth part like it was a spline? Pretty simple. Create your normal sweep. You have this nice little feature right here called Merge Tangent Faces. Click on Merge Tangent Faces. There you go. That one's about as easy as it gets. It's slick. There's a slight caveat with it. If you're going to use the part file in a drawing, you've now removed those edges, any of those sketch edges you need. So if you need to dimension to that, you can't. You're going to have to do a little setup in the sketch to get those points to show up in the drawing side. That's all. Any questions? Yes. No, because the surface would be continual, wouldn't it? Not necessarily. You want to try it real quick? See? Let's see what we get. Let me delete this. I got that. Surface. Circular profile. Let's change it to something small. Click that. So options, merge tangent faces. Let's see. Ready? There you go.
Cool.
Yeah, it's the same underlying code. True. Very true. So surfaces and solids. Yeah, to the arc. Yeah, you won't be able to because there's no edge reference there anymore. So you have to create some geometry to pull that into the drawing. But sometimes when you're looking at models, sometimes I like that nice clean flow. I don't like all those edges. Just me, but it's a nice little tip people don't know. The whole idea, yes, sir. I have no idea. I think it's been there forever. It's like it's like anything else. So at least 16, right? It's like anything else. You're in SOLIDWORKS, right? Click a button. What's the worst that can happen? You just dump the file and reopen it, right? Right? So click around, pick buttons, see what happens. That's how I came across this. Oh, what's this? Click. Oh, that's sweet. Nice. Any other questions?
I've been using SOLIDWORKS for more than 20 years now. And every once in a while I'll be looking at a command I've used hundreds of times over. I see a new option. When did they put that in there? Here it's been in there for 3, 4, 5 years. You get so used to just doing the modeling the same way.
Hold on, Dean. Okay. So real quick, does everyone know that I didn't use a sketch, a circle, a square to produce that profile? It's built into the extrude tool now. Who didn't know that? Few people. So if you don't have a diameter, I think you can only do it with a diameter.
Yes.
But if you don't want to create that geometry, you don't have to. You just type it in right there. That's really slick. I like that a lot. Not one that you can pick on. No, it's probably Booleans buried into the you can double click on the model and it'll come up with a dimension, but there's no no. It's canned. It's one of those canned part of the programs.
So on this next one, I'm going to show you a real easy way to move a sketch. You can see I purposely took the sketch for that bore and that keyway and moved it off center, which is incorrect. A lot of times when we import, we do a copy paste from draft site or other 2D applications. That data comes in underdefined and doesn't come in the correct location, so we go to move it to the correct location, and it doesn't work as you would expect it to. So let me go ahead and open up the file and show you what I'm talking about. So let's see here. First of all, I need to identify the sketch that falls under Cut Extrude 3. So I'm going to edit the sketch here. And most people believe to move this sketch, you would simply put a window box around it, correct? You'd hold the left mouse button down on the center point and drag it over to the origin. But look what happens. Yeah, a lot of people think they believe it should move it. And it does not. So we do have a Move Entities tool up here, but if you get into discussion forums, a lot of frustration with this because a lot of times it does not move it to your intended point. So I'm going to show you a way to move that sketch real easy. I'm going to go ahead and window select it one more time. This time, I'm going to hold down the Control key on the keyboard. I'm going to hold down the left mouse button on the center point, and I'm going to move it off to the right for a second. I don't know if you can see my screen up here, but notice there's a plus sign next to the cursor, correct? That means it's going to copy it, not move it. And if I go over to the origin and I release the left mouse button, it makes a copy of it. That is not what I wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and click undo. As you can see, the geometry is still selected, so no need to reselect it. Here's the trick. I'm going to hold down the Control key, hold down the left mouse button on the center point. The trick is you want to release the Control key first. When you release the Control key first, it moves it instead of copies it. Really nice.
I want to hear a ah. We rehearsed this, before the weekend because he lives in Michigan. I live in Mass, so I tried to get myself to Michigan, just didn't work out. He showed me that when I went, damn, that's slick.
So Control key, you have to release that Control key first. Then it'd be a move command.
Any questions?
I think it's just a caveat of I'm just kind of stumbled across it at one point.
Windows functionality. Yeah, like most things, John. Yeah. What's that, Dan?
Yeah. And you wonder what happened.
After one of these, right, Dan?
We could have. Yeah, that was another option.
Well, you could have dimensioned it too, right?
Yes.
And then you can drag it. Don't point it to anywhere, but then drag it over the origin. Could do that as well.
Yeah, and quite honestly, in my classroom setting, my best practices for my students are always, number one, you always allow those automatic relations to be added automatically. Number two, if need be, add or remove existing relations. And number three, always smart dimension last. You want to define it with the relations first before you smart dimension. Yes.
So if you're a draft site, you've got a sketch over here, you want to bring it to the origin, you want to go pull it, you want to bring it across. So that's
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Anyone else? Here we go. I'm going to show you how to do this spiral on a dome. Create an extrude, of course. Who's used the intersection curve command? A few people. Wow. All right, maybe I don't need to show anybody. All right, let me open up the part file. So a challenge, colleagues, how do I create this? So both of us were going back and forth trying to figure it out. And between both of us, we went, intersection curve. So I'll go through the motions of what I created. Pretty simple, create a revolve, right? Create a helix. Let me turn these on so you can see. So I just create a sketch in the center. That helix is actually going to allow me to do a sweep, a surface sweep, all the way up. Here's my surface, turn that on. So there's my surface. There's my geometry. So I have a surface, I have the dome, the surface of the solid, the dome. And I'm going to dive into the intersection tool just to see what that looks like, because it shows a little differently when you do it as opposed to afterwards. Intersection. Oh, you know what? It's probably not going to allow me to do that. Sketch. Intersection curve. So I'm going to click the surface. I'm going to click the dome. Green check. I'm going to hide this. I got to get out of this. Hide that. And I'll just hide this for sakes. Shut these off. So there's my geometry. That's when I want. Now, if I just needed that geometry to create a spiral, something extruded, I could do that. Obviously, I'm doing extruded cut. And once again, a cut sweep. If I edit that, I've got solid profile, circular profile, sketch profile. I just dial in 5 millimeters, click the path from the intersection curve, and I get that nice extruded sweep, extruded cut sweep. Pretty slick. Now, some of these examples are obtuse. We understand that. Well, mine are probably more obtuse, but they're obtuse on a purpose. Most of the tips and tricks that I get are because someone showed me something that I went, you know what, I could use that here, or I could have used that here. So I'm basically just showing you stuff that hopefully will plug in your brain. You go, I remember seeing a tips and trick. They use the intersection curve. You know what, I'm going to try that. That's a lot of where a lot of my tips and tricks come from. Yes, sir. You can, but it doesn't create the nice sweep of a path. It actually makes it kind of a weirder path. When me and my colleague were doing it, I was actually trying to do the wrap feature, and it just didn't create, and there's a limitation on that wrap. You can't have a sketch not extending to the overextending geometry. It won't actually do the wrap. So, yeah, so there's some limitations there. Yep. Hijack it, Dan. Please, hijack.
If you wanted to boost your rebuild time,
Yep.
and reduce the number of features, you could, instead of building a helix, just have a straight sketch, and your surface would be a straight line.
Yep.
And you just do the twist along path.
Twist along path, yep, twist along path works too, yeah. There's still some computation power with that as well, but yeah, the helix will definitely have a lot more computational power. Anyone else?
So this next one here is really not a tip or a trick. Maybe the second part of it is, but not the first part. It's just, once again, people, once they learn how to use the software, they typically stick with that method because it's tried and tested, and they don't vary much from that. And we have so many, just really quick side note here. Teaching at a community college, you realize that a lot of the students coming in your class, my classes range from 16 years old up to 76 years old. But you have so many younger students in your class, they don't have mentors. And a lot of our schools don't have CAD, machine tools, auto service. So if you really want to expand your CAD skills, go out and find your nephew or niece or a neighbor that wants to learn the software and teach them the software. And then once you show them a little bit, send them off, have them come back, and you'll be amazed at how people take different approaches at modeling. And that will definitely help you expand your modeling skills too. Just seeing how different people look at models. Well, this one here, how many people use dynamic mirror? Okay, about maybe a third of you, a quarter of you. We have so many parts that are symmetrical, and we're not using dynamic mirror. So for example, if we want to make this structural steel item here, what we would typically do is start the center line. I already have the center line existing. I'm going to edit the sketch. And we would simply go out there and we would draw the geometry on one side of that center line. And after we had that geometry drawn, then we'd use the mirror entities to mirror it to the opposite side. That's how most people mirror geometry. And but we have something called dynamic mirror, and this is really cool. If I go to Tools, Sketch Tools, Dynamic Mirror, it prompts me for a center line. So I'm going to select this center line, and as soon as I do that, I'm going to see a symmetry symbol on both ends of that center line. And here's a dynamic part of it. it will build it on the opposite side as you're building the sketch on the left side of that center line. Really, really handy. Now, one thing you need to be aware of, if you close out of the sketch and you want to go back into the sketch and make changes to it, it does not place you back in that dynamic mirror command. You have to go back through tools, sketch tools, and dynamic mirror and start it back up. And the next tip here, this would be probably for the newer users. Let me go ahead and just extrude this really quick. When we are out there measuring entities or finding the angle between two lines or two faces, most people head straight to the Evaluate tab and click on Measure. You may not know this, but down in the bottom right-hand corner, if I click on a vertex, it'll give me the XYZ coordinates of that vertex point. Or if I click on Line Segment, it'll give me the length of it. Or if I hold down the Control key and select on two lines, it gives you the angle. And the same is true for faces too. Anything more complex than that, then you would have to go through as far as measurements, you would have to go through the measure tool. But for your simple measurements, this is really nice. It just eliminates a couple mouse clicks. You can go right there and select it, and it shows up down in the bottom right-hand corner. Yes?
Do you have to exit the sketch to get out of dynamic mirror mode? Escape
Right,
key.
right.
Yeah.
Escape key.
Escape key.
Yes. Yeah. Any other questions?
Back there.
Does it work on?
What? Yes, yeah, because you're only
It does.
defining one section of it because it's doing that dynamic mirror on the other side.
It was, and if you, I could go back to that and you'll see it's adding the relations as it's building it. And for time's sake, I didn't do the last part of this and add the smart dimensions just for time's sake purposes. I don't believe so.
It's one time. You're talking two at the same on the
Yes.
same sketch. Oh. No, I think it's strictly for that type of geometry right there. Anybody else? The other thing you could do too, obviously, you could mirror that as well. But this is now you have to another group window trap to do that. But there's like SOLIDWORKS, right? Anything else you could do the same thing 3 different ways, right? So add that to your repertoire of one of those ways. So on this slide, I'm going to show you how to produce that geometry. So that's what the client wanted, and I have to reproduce that. I actually had to do a little search to figure out how to do that, but I'm going to show you how I did it. I'm actually going to delete this. I want to do that. Delete. I'm just doing a little cleanup to make this easier to represent. All right, here we go. Okay, so there's all the sketches that I created to make this. Delete this. So there's this sketch. That's actually 2 segmented ellipses or arcs, whatever you want to call them. Those are 2 different sketches, starting at the top, working their way down. Single sketch, 2 entities. That's a single sketch at the bottom, and that's a point. And it's right there. It's kind of hard to see. So I'm going to go to my surface tool, because in solid, doing this in a solid loft, it performs a little differently. So if you're ever having a problem doing a solid loft, try a surface loft. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click the sketch 4, which is that point, and the bottom sketch, which is a complete ellipse at the bottom. I'm going to click on the lofted surface tool. So I get this. So a point at the top, sketch at the bottom. It does that nice loft, okay? There's a little bit of a catch with this. That sketch 4, which is the point at the top, has to be below the sketch 3 in order, in the profile order. If it's at the top, it doesn't work. But in 2019, it works. In 2018, it doesn't work. This is why I didn't want to switch to 19. So in 2018, if you do this, the point has to be underneath. In 2019, I guess it doesn't matter. We'll continue. But I need those guide curves. So the guide curves, the reason why they're segmented is I have to click one at a time. I have to go right around. If it's a single sketch arc, it doesn't work. It doesn't know to produce that loft. So I'm going to click on my selection manager tool. I'm going to pin it so it stays up. Select group. I'm going to click that. Right mouse click, green check. You can kind of see it right there in the corner. There's that one. Right click. There's that one. There's that one. Let me just rotate around here. And there's that one. I don't do anything else. Organic as possible. Green check mark. Done. That's how I did that. Took me quite a while to figure that out with a little help of Google and the SOLIDWORKS forum. Yes, sir. Yeah, it doesn't work. It has to be a point. I tried maybe 2019, because if you have those reversed order, it doesn't work. In 2018, it doesn't work. In 19, I was surprised to see it worked. So it had to be a sketch point. That's why I have it there. I could have done it with a 3D sketch. Yeah, you could have done it. Still has to be single entities though, because the guide curve you can't pick the guide curve to do a loft when it's going from the same point at the bottom up to the same point at the top. Doesn't know how to produce that geometry. Because remember, it's a surface. It's wrapping around that ellipse at the bottom. Yep. Right there. Got it? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What I like to do too is just go straight from the ellipse.
Yep.
And then the point is set to normal to profile.
Normal, yes.
And you just get that shape, that bullnose.
Yep, that bullnose shape.
And unless you want to really control it.
Yeah, I wanted to, I'm a little bit more decisive with the guide curves, but yeah, you could do that with normal too as well. Yeah, that's a nice little tip. Who does surface modeling here? Isn't surface modeling fun? No? Who said no? He raised his hand. No. That was funny. All right.
I don't think a lot of people use decals. And when you do use decals, it's typically a custom decal. It's not one from the standard library. So the question is, okay, how do I create a custom decal? Well, first of all, the decals need to be saved in a P2D format. And again, most people, they need a decal. It's going to be custom. And they got to go out there in the forums, go through the help screen just to figure out how to create a custom decal and apply it. Well, most of the discussion forums and the SOLIDWORKS help screen will tell you to go to your add-ins and turn on the Photo View 360, which is your rendering. And it will step you right through the process to create a custom decal. Quite a few mouse clicks though. I'm going to show you a couple shortcuts to get the job done. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my beer bottle here. And I'm going to select the appearance icon. Select on decals. I'm just going to pull over one of the stock decals onto the bottle. And as soon as I do that, my property manager opens for the decals. I can now click on Browse. And I can go find my JPEG image or my PNG image. So I'm going to go find GP's photo. There we go. And notice it replaces it. And I'm going to go down here quickly and just fix it up a little bit. Let me scroll down. Having trouble moving the mouse and this tablecloth up here. And there you go. We applied a decal to the bottle real easy. Instead of going through the photo view, it just makes it real easy. Then we can save it out to the location where decals are saved, or saved it to a custom location. Now, another one, I stumbled across this. I think this may be even easier, even though the method I just showed you is the one I've been using for years. I actually stumbled across an easier way to do this. You click on the appearance, and you click on decal, and it says, basically, go to your standard decal library. What a lot of people don't know, and I didn't know, I can simply right mouse click and click add decal, and then go grab that decal and place it on the bottle. So it's unfortunate when you do that, there's nothing here that says that you can, add decal. You have to know to right mouse click and select add decal. And I don't think we add decals a lot, but it just seems like we do. They're always custom, and everybody's scratching their head, now how do I do that? So there's just a couple quick ways of doing that instead of going through the add-ins and turning on the photo view. Yes? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Can you save decals as favorites or no? Over in the right pane, can you do favorites over there at all? Right? You could do favorites with other stuff.
Yeah, you should be able to. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Question?
Discovered in my office that the high details is not manufactured the same as the system setup. So the shared file,
Oh, it's gonna look for it on your.
nobody will see it on their system.
Yeah. Ah,
Yes,
you have to set it.
I require my students to do one project with decal, and I stumble across that all the time.
Who uses decals in here? Yeah, good.
Oh, more than I thought.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yes, PNG and JPEG. Yes. Another question?
Have a custom folder for your custom decals and just put it over there before you add it.
Yes.
Then it gets shared across.
Yeah, well, the network bound at that point, right? Yeah. Everyone hear that? So store it with the PDM. It's network bound. Then it'll find the network key through PDM. Good.
Very good.
Oh, put a piece of paper underneath your mouse. Grab one.
Okay. Making a difference.
Yeah, that helps. All right, so this one here, I do a lot of 3D printing. Again, just out of curiosity, we had a lot of who does 3D printing in here? All right, so I'm going to show you a nice little tip. Who actually prints threads in their 3D printing? Oh my God, you guys are missing out. Use this tool. I mean, unless you're printing something like a 440 thread, I did a quarter 20 with some onyx material, 150-pound weight, and it held it fine. Of course, it depends if you're printing it this way, right? Suppose sport material is this way. But I'm going to show you a quick little way to print those threads. So the feature is called Thread. It's under Hole Wizard. Of course, you can always find it with this tool right here. Brings you there. It's actually a drop down. I'm going to slide back to here. All right. So I have my hole. You need to know the minor diameter of your thread or other dimensions based on how you're going to produce the thread. I think this is an M5, so use a 4.2, right? 0.8 is the minor diameter from M5. Go to my thread tool. It gives you this warning. The thread type, size profiles, and nominal thread profiles, do not use them Reduction quality threads. You only want to use this tool if you're going to do 3D printing or if you absolutely need to show threads in a model because it does take some computational power. So keep it to just 3D printing, maybe make a configuration to strip out the threads when you don't really need it in a part file or in a model. So the thread location doesn't have to be planar to each other, or it can be an angle. Doesn't matter. It's going to recognize that whole edge, even if it's at an angle. So I'm going to click that edge right there. I need to extend that, find a starting point on that hole. I'm just going to arbitrarily pick up vertex up there, because I know that's above the hole. I can create an offset, so I can offset below the hole or above the hole. So you want to start, if you're 3D printing, you want to start above, because it's actually, when you're printing, it's going to stop at before the hole ends. You don't want that. So I'll just offset it by 1 millimeter. My up to selection, or I could do a blinds end condition, doesn't matter. But I want it to go to here. Now, here's where the fun comes. Specification, metric type, right there. Metric tap. I could do an inch tap, I could do a die as well, or I could do a SPX bottle, right? The big knobby bottle threads on the top of a plastic bottle. M5.08. Everything else is pre-selected. I'm doing a cut thread, right? Because I made my hole smaller. And I can do an offset with here as well. So if I look at the top here, so now my threads are above because I did an offset before the threads, and then I'm doing an offset past the threads. This way here, I get a nice continual thread all the way through the part. Click on the green check, and there's your threads. Now you could add a chamfer if you want, but you'd have to pick the chamfer edge instead. I'm doing this for 3D printing, so it doesn't have to be too pretty. You can do a pattern with this. You don't want to do a mirror with this. Why? Why? Let me hear it. Why? Because you make what kind of threads? Left-handed threads. Don't do that. I might have, I might not have, I don't know. What's that? That would be appropriate. Yeah, what I did wasn't appropriate. Might have done. Might have.
Undersize the threads for your PLA extrusion?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So what I do is I chase the thread. So I make it right to the minor diameter size, and then I chase it either with the screw or with a little tap. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's plastic material, right? So I mean, that stuff will clean out nice. I brought it to a client one time. They're like, "Where's the inserts?" I go, "I don't use inserts." They were like, "Oh, impressive." So give it a try. I know different materials have different strengths, but I was pretty impressed with the material that Mark Forge produces. Yes, way down there in the back. Yes, I think you can. Yeah, because there's a command there for obviously tap and die, right? You can pat. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Changing the hole size. Yeah, you can. There's a whole subset of different sizes you can create. So don't just think you have to do nominal size. If you have to create something and you're creating a fitting thread to go with that, the sky's the limit. There is, if I haven't said it yet, there is some computational power needed with this. If you do a pattern, I did one, it was a breadboard, created like 12 different holes from a pattern. It took like a couple minutes to open. So there is a caveat there. Any other questions? Go. Good.
Here, this is kind of a pet peeve of mine. This is one that's very simple that I'm sure all of you know about, but very few people use. I fight my students on this nonstop, and I go out in industry and I work with companies that contract me, and I still see the designers are managing or using their feature manager design tree the same way, and they do the rollback and everything. Everybody wants to go to the bottom and grab that rollback bar and drag it up to the location they want to roll it back to. I do it myself, but there are so many shortcuts out there that will, make it much easier. For many years, we struggled with grabbing that rollback bar, and now in 2018, Service Pack 5.0, they made that rollback bar a little bit wider, so it is easier to grab. However, instead of going down, scrolling down to the bottom, grabbing that rollback bar, pulling it back to where you want to roll it back to, let's say I want to roll it back to extrude 8 and to include extrude 8, I simply right mouse click and I select rollback and it rolls it back. I'm going to go up a few more features and do it one more time. I'm going to right mouse click again. I can roll to previous. I can roll to end. So much easier than scrolling down a long feature manager design tree, grabbing that rollback bar, and then holding down that left mouse button, hope you don't release it as you drag it up the tree. Something else you can do with this is going to the very top. I'm not sure if you know this, but you can filter your tree. So I can type the word plane here, and it shows me all of the planes in the feature manager tree. Now, one thing I mentioned earlier is I do require all of my student assignments to be fully defined. And for years, every time I'd open up each one of their assignments, I want to check the sketches. I'm clicking, I'm clicking all day long. So quite a few years back, I started to research through the help screens and the forums, how do you fully expand your tree? Does anybody know?
Control T?
Yes, Control
Right,
T. You know what's interesting? The discussion forums, it was all over the place. Nobody knew. And they're throwing out all different ideas. So one way to expand the tree, you can click on, in this example, the part name, hit the asterisk, and it expands the tree. So you can see the entire tree expanded. Now, obviously, everybody knows how to collapse, correct? A couple ways you can do that. You can right mouse click, select collapse items, or what is the keystroke? Shift C. Now, somebody said Control T, which is not a common one. A lot of people don't know about that. That's the one I use. Because Control T, T as in Tom, is nice because it will expand and collapse. Now, here's the downside of Control T. I'm used to it, so it doesn't bother me. It places the sketch above the feature, which makes no sense. At least for me, it doesn't. But I'm used to it now, so it doesn't bother me. So, yes. Yeah, so I use Control Key. That's Control T. That is my go-to. Yes, exactly.
But you can also go to a flat tree. You can show a flat view,
Yes.
which is a great way to fix problems in a part file.
That's actually, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Say that again?
The first way I did it, I selected the part name at the top of the feature manager tree, and then I hit the asterisk key, and it expands it. And that was quite a few years back. I was doing the researching this, and was really struggling to find an answer, trying many different things people are putting out there. And just recently preparing for this, the same thing. People are, this is just not a common, known fact. There's a question
way back there. Oh,
okay.
So what if you don't have a keyboard, a computer with a number pad? You're screwed, right? Oh.
Shift 8?
Nope.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Thank you.
Here, that's for you. Just kidding. Gotta tease that up as I can. Yes, sir.
You could.
Control T. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely could.
Yes.
Yeah. And people know you can do hotkeys, right? Ever know how to do hotkeys in here? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I believe so. I'll have an assembly open a little bit. We'll try it. Yeah, that's true.
Yes, sir. Nope. Any other questions? Okay, I have here an obtuse model just to show you this part of the presentation. Delete face tool. Who uses delete face tool? Ah, yes, you guys are my friends. Who loves the delete face tool? Yeah, what's that? Favorite command. If you talk to people at SOLIDWORKS though, they hate it because you know the code that goes into it when you use it. It's like this long in a part file. Open that up. All right, so I have these, picture this as a par file, doing some geometry, maybe something inside, and all of a sudden the corners blow out. That's what I'm trying to really depict here. There's a caveat to delete face. You have to be able to pick all the edges. So whether you're clicking them or using a filter tool, that's the key. If you don't get all those faces up to the edge, it does not work. If I know how to type, I'll get to delete face. There we go. So delete face, it's a feature. You can click on, I'm going to just click on this, this, and this. I could click on this, this, and that. I could click all four, doesn't matter. I have delete and fill, which will actually remove the geometry and then put a patch. I have delete, which just blasts a hole right through it, and then your part is a surface. That isn't good for anything. And then delete and patch, which is what I want. I basically want to remove that corner, get the spackle out, and buff it nice, right? That's it. That's it. So if you have geometry that's extending over a surface or a feature, and you just want to remove that geometry, boss says, hey, I need that in like 5 minutes, you're going to use delete face tool. Trust me on that one. Who's going to start using that didn't know about delete face tool? Yeah, okay, good, 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 good. What's that? Move face is great too, yeah. So we have move face as a comment up here. Same sort of operation. Offset, you can translate, you can also rotate. So these are Boolean commands. These are nice commands. They're very friendly if you use them the right way. So again, dive deep into some of these features. They could really help you in a pinch.
What's the difference between patch and fill?
Patch will leave, so why don't I show you? So delete and fill. Leaves that. What's that? Doesn't knit it, just leaves, it's like it removed it and then just put it in just what it means, a patch. And then if I do delete, now it's a hole right straight through, and if you look up here, it's a surface panel now. So.
There is actually underlying geometry problem that happens. The difference between the patch and the fill.
Yes.
So the patch, you'll end up with a degenerate point.
Yeah, and the corners there, right. Yeah.
Fill, what it does is it actually lays a square blanket
Over it, yes. Yeah, that's why if you have a problem file and you send it to SOLIDWORKS and those guys get it, the code for that is like a mile long, and it takes them forever to figure out what's wrong with the part file. So, yes, sir. Yeah. Yep. That we want to see? So the corners I removed are over here. So nice and continuous. Cool.
This next one here is, once again, one of those commands that, or options that a lot of people, they look right past and they don't see because they use the fillet command the same way over and over and over. How many people use the selection toolbar that's up here in the PowerPoint? So about a quarter of you. So the other people, a lot of times, like I mentioned earlier, we have these commands, we're used to using them the same way over and over and over, and something new pops up on the screen, we never see it. We look right past it. And I believe this is one of them, so I'm going to take you into a model here and just show you some of the benefits of this. I'm going to go to the fillet command, select fillet. Let me go ahead and change that fillet size really quick. And you want to make sure your show selection toolbar is checked. So I go over and I select this edge here. Notice the show selection toolbar pops up. And this is just a quick, easy way to apply multiple fillets across your model with a single mouse click. So if you haven't used this before, I'm not sure when they added this selection toolbar. Does anybody know? 17? I've been looking right past it myself. I've never seen it. You know, just recently, what is that toolbar? So again, I'm just as guilty as everybody else. I create my models the same way over and over and over. So again, you can go ahead and select, apply the fillet, and notice there's quite a few mouse clicks it saved. And then process it. Oop, got a little bit of problem with that though. So obviously I have to run the feature expert. Any questions? Yes.
Champers. Yeah, champers and radial edges, yeah.
And this is for both constant and variable fillets.
So this here is another obtuse example. I'm going to show you how to create a lock concentric rotation of all of those in one click. Now, granted, I could do one and pattern it, but the purpose of this is to show you where that right-click feature is to create something quicker and easier than you would expect. All right, so I have a ring. I have a lot of these screws, set screws in the holes, and they're all undefined. I mean, they're, you know, concentric to the hole, but they're not lined up vertically or horizontally. I worked for a German endoscope company for about 5 years, and everything had to be fine. Sketches, assembly, parts, files, it didn't matter. Even if it was a dumb file, I couldn't have a minus sign next to it. Everything had to be locked down. So the real slick way to do this without spending hours of time, front face, parallel, lock, line, all that good stuff, is if you go to your mate tool, you see all those concentric mates, correct? If I right-click on one, I have lock rotation, and it highlights the circle with a filled dot in the center. So that's locked, okay? If I want to undo that concentric rotation, I unlock it, right-click, same thing. If I click on mates, lock concentric rotation, concentric, thank you. I think I just got yelled at. Hold on a second. We'll have therapy later. If I right-click on the mates and click all, it does it to all of them. I'm done. I'm done. Excellent. You don't have to go through all. Did I hear an applause? Yeah. Holy crap. Nice. You're very welcome. Do not spend your time going through each and every one of them. Again, you could do a pattern. Where this really came from is I was doing a fixture for a colleague, and I had all these locator pins all over the place. And he goes, oh, just right-click on the mate feature and just do it there. And I went, oh, I could kiss you. So put that as part of your workflow. Yes, sir. You're welcome. Yeah, you obviously, yeah. There's you know, some depending on where you're at, what you're doing, you might, you know, want to pull them all in the same direction. But yeah, there's a caveat with that. It's not going to fix them all straight. That could be a great enhancement, though, Jeff. There you go. Sure. Over this. Therapy. Thank you. Never mind. We'll talk about it tonight at the offsite. New England, my Boston accent will be in highlight form, guaranteed.
So this next one here, control Q, friend or foe. I view it as a friend. But one thing just one quick thing here is how many times have you been modeling a part, you complete the part, no red or yellow over in the feature manager tree, no apparent errors. You send it off to a colleague or a customer, they open it up, and they're seeing red and yellow on the left-hand side of the screen. They call you up, message you, Hey, I'm seeing mistakes. What's going on here? And you're thinking to yourself, it's fine for me. What'd you do? A lot of times it can be in what I'm looking at here. Did I do a verification on rebuild? How many people know what VOR is? Just a few of you. Okay, interesting. Well, first of all, when you see the green light icon, that's your standard rebuild, correct? So if we place a fillet on the edge of a part, and you do the standard rebuild, or you can do a Control B instead of hitting the icon, all it does is make sure that fillet fits within those two adjacent faces. That's it. It's not checking against any other geometry in the model. And I'll show an example here in a second. The Control Q, that's a force rebuild. That will rebuild the entire model from start to finish on the feature manager tree. But again, it still may not find geometry. If I place a fillet in there too large and it's giving me undesired results, it still may not throw an error message. So I'm going to open up a part and describe what I'm talking about. So first of all, a simple part here. I'm going to zoom up on this edge, create a fillet, and I'm going to click on this edge here. Let's change that fillet to 60 thousandths. I'm not getting a rebuild icon on the left-hand side of the screen, but if you do click rebuild, which is your standard rebuild, it's just verifying that fillet fits within those two adjacent faces. If I do Control Q, it rebuilds the entire tree, but again, it's just checking to make sure that fillet fits within those two adjacent faces. Now I'm going to come down here and place a larger fillet. Let's go with a 1-inch fillet. Notice that was not my intended results. And again, if I do a rebuild, if I do a Control Q for a forced rebuild, no error messages. What you want to do is look at verification and rebuild, the VOR. So I'm going to go up to my options, system options, performance, and turn on verification and rebuild. What this does, it checks that new feature against every changed or modified feature, not just the adjacent ones. So once I turn on the VOR, I click OK, and I do a Control Q, now it's going to throw an error message. So, and there is some performance concern here. If you have a very complex part, this will affect the performance of your software. But here's what good practice you may want to consider. Turn off VOR, and when you finish up that model, and you have that model completed, turn VOR on for a second and do Control Q. So Control Q with VOR, it pretty much is making sure that all of your geometry fits and you won't have any issues like this. I do it at the very end of every model, and then I turn the VOR off as I'm modeling the rest of the part if the part's going to be complex. Otherwise, I simply leave it on. I'm sorry, say it again? And yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
The shell won't know what to do.
Yep. Yeah, so we can reorder the features and correct it to just another way of approaching the problem. Any other questions? So again, I've had a number of models I sent out to my customers, and they look perfect. Put a lot of hours into them, only to realize the customer receives them, and you know, they're getting error messages. So I now make it a common practice to do the VOR plus the Control Q before I send out a model.
One more tip from me, one more from you, and then the
Sounds
video,
good.
because I think that's what we've got for time. I'll let you set up the video too. All right, so I'm going to show you the fillet here on the left versus what I created on the right. So I'm using a subtractive process. I'm removing geometry, and then I'm adding geometry to make something a little bit more good looking, sexy, whatever you want to call it. Pretty, aesthetic. Any others? Am I going to get yelled at again because I can't pronounce what the word is? Just kidding. Drawings?
I picked up on that, Ed.
Love my Boston accent.
That was cute.
Park the car and Harvard Yard. There you go. All right. So I have this already in here, but let me delete it. Delete that. Roll back a little bit. A little bit more. Yeah, yes I can. Is that hard to see? Yeah. Good call. There. How's that? So I just did an extrude into that body. Nothing fancy there. I created a fillet on that edge you saw prior. Just click that edge, you did a fillet. Pretty straightforward. Don't like the looks of that. So what I'm going to do is a subtractive process. So my sketch is just basically a semicircle. I'm just blasting right through, removing material. Here's my sketches. They're just two splines. They're in the same sketch. I do a pierce point to that edge, 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 just creating a spline. I don't change the control arms. I keep a tangent to the surface, straightforward. I don't need any extra push and pull on those splines. Let the geometry fall where it may. Then I use the loft tool. I'm just picking that edge. I don't need a sketch. Picking this edge. I'm already getting definition. That's good. I'm in the right spot. But if I look from the top, I don't like how that flows into the center section, that little bar in the center. So back to my guide curve. Click that guide curve. Selection manager, I need to do a select open loop. That. I forgot to pin my selection manager. Click that one, right click. So I'm getting that nice flow now. That looks a little bit pretty, sexy, aesthetic. There we go. Green check. And done. So don't think when you do modeling, it has to be all additive. You can do subtractive modeling too. You can always remove stuff to rebuild something that looks nicer. Cool?
Okay, we're running out of time here, so this will be the last tip, and we're going to show you a short video and to the beer. This next one here, I'll be honest, I don't use this one, but every time I show it to people, they think, well, that is cool. So that's why I threw it in here, just to show you how we can quickly copy and move features from one edge or surface to another. So notice I have a fillet down here in the bottom of this pocket, and I want the fillet at the top edge. Now before I show you how to quickly place that fillet on the top edge, I do want to scroll down my Feature Manager design tree and show you I have currently 8 fillets. So this fillet here, I'm going to select it, and that happens to be fillet number 3. I'm going to hold down the Control key, hold down the left mouse button, drag that fillet over to the upper edge, release it, and it applies the fillet. So how many people knew you could do that?
Wow.
Okay, cool. Now, yes, it actually created another fillet.
Creates a new feature. Yeah.
Yep, so we have a fillet 9 now.
What's that? There, it's a whole new feature
Correct.
separate. Yeah, it's not sharing that feature from above.
Now let's say, for example, I want to move this cut extrude feature to this face over here for some reason. Well, one way to do it is to expand that feature, right mouse click in the sketch and edit the sketch plane, correct? And select this face over here. Well, I can actually hold down the shift key, hold down the left mouse button on the cut extrude feature, and, okay, let's get it to work here. I'm going to pull it over that surface. Okay, let's try it one more time. Yeah. Yep, I think you're correct. No. Okay, one more time, then we'll go to the video.
We did earlier say we fumbled with a few of them.
Yeah, hold down the Control key, grab the feature, and it should move it to that face. And again, the caveat is you have to pull them to your Feature Manager tree. I could not pull this fillet from here up to here. You got to go to your Feature Manager tree to copy and to move.
Control Q. Oh, rebuild it.
Yeah, let me try it now. Okay. Gotta love SolidWorks at times. There we go. Thank you. And then it prompts me whether I wanted to keep those external relations. I'll delete them, and it moves that feature. So.
We got a quick little video to show you. We'll pull some names for the beer, get you guys out of here so you can get some lunch. How's that? You want to set up the video? I got it over here.
Sure.
Okay, set it up.
So this video here is just something that Ed and I thought was funny. We've all been in these meetings like this before. You may have seen this video before, but it's always worth watching a second time if you've seen it before.
Doesn't come out. It's right there.
It can also be added to wagons to make moving a heavy load easier. Your opinions?
They don't like the idea of a round wheel.
That means it could roll away and get lost, right? Or it could roll over your foot. It's the round shape that disturbs me. It's very feminine. I can't imagine any caveman wanting to be seen with that.
I wouldn't.
And this added to wagons thing, it sounds very complicated. Is there an easier version? You know what? Do you have it in square?
No square.
If there was a square one, it didn't roll. Maybe I would think about buying one. That's
All right, that is all for us. Don't leave just yet. We're going to pull some names, but
borrow his hat.
this is awesome. We want to do this again next year, so please fill out your form. Yeah, thank you. Please fill out your surveys, and we'll do this again next year. Maybe we'll have more beer to give away.